Hi, my name's Kevin Pierce, and I've been the principal of Park Middle School in Kennewick, Washington for the past 7 years. In that time, we've been on school improvement all of those years in its various forms, and through that process, we've really worked to make our school improvement efforts as efficient and effective as possible. Well, I've been asked to share a little bit about our process and what we've learned, and so here are a few comments before you actually watch an example of our school improvement meeting. 4 years ago, we moved away from involving teachers in our bi-monthly school improvement meetings. With the introduction of IndiStar, it was clear that the ever-increasing workload was overwhelming many of my staff, and that was including myself at the time. In order to get a handle on everything we were expected to do, we really needed to spend more time on it, and we couldn't carve that time outside of our normal workday because, frankly, we were really burning out. And it wasn't just the leadership team, but I could tell it was my teachers too. So for those reasons, I decided to move our SIP, school improvement, meetings from bi-monthly to weekly. And instead of after school, they were moved to the mornings. And instead of teachers, I looked to my specialists both at the district and building level to help with those important decisions. So my core team became my 2 assistant principals and our 3 coaches, the literacy coach, our math coach, and the coach from OSPI. I also asked our district GLAD coaches to join us as well. And then later I added our after-school coordinator and our migrant graduation specialist when she was hired this past year. The meetings begin at 8 a.m. and run until 10:30 every Monday. This format has not only increased our productivity and communication, but it's made the entire process much more manageable for my leadership team and for my staff. Decisions or ideas made in this meeting are brought to my teacher team leaders who meet bi-monthly after school. They're also able to give their input, and from there it goes either to my site council or to staff meeting for further discussion and processing. In this way, we create buy-in while involving people at the appropriate level, and we get the important work done as continually, and we put the time necessary to really do all of the things that a school like Park really needs to do. So this is an edited recording, what you're going to watch, of my Monday meeting from March 23rd of 2015. It's fairly typical. Usually we spend time reviewing common assessment data from our PLC teams, which is collected and organized by our literacy and math coaches. We have also spent time in the past visiting classrooms together and doing some learning walks, but we don't do that during this meeting today. My meetings are organized by an agenda, like any other meeting, which I've transferred from IndiStar. In the past, I used IndiStar to record our agendas and meeting notes. Now I use my own form and keep it in my notebook. Although IndiStar is a very efficient way to communicate our plan and progress on a large scale to people outside of my school, I find it pretty inhibitive when it comes to communicating my meeting agenda. It offers, I guess, until it offers the same flexibility as, say, a Word document, I'm not going to use it for my weekly agendas anymore. I constantly work to improve how I use IndiStar and create my tasks and subsequent agendas. What you're seeing now is my latest version of how I take the information from IndiStar and make sure that our leadership team is using that information in how we make decisions on a weekly basis. I share this with staff monthly, and I try to do it in ways that are easy for them to digest and not overwhelm them. I constantly work to improve how I use IndiStar and create my tasks and subsequent agendas. What you're seeing now is my latest version. I hope you find this video helpful as you reflect on your process, and good luck to you as you work through the challenges of school improvement.
So looking at the agenda, guys, I'm going to make a change real quick. We're going to go down and skip down to 07, P207. Go ahead and put number 1 down for that, and then we're going to change and come back up to the current one. So it's going to be P207 is 1, and then P110 is 2, and then P106 is 3. Then we'll just catch up and go from there, okay? All right, so first off, learning walks. We've got to update it Is there anything that the group would like to talk about the learning walks that they performed last week? First off, I know last week was a 40 a week. I was gone for 2 days of those weeks. I don't think I even attempted my learning walks. The previous week I got to most of them and I didn't mark them down, so we need to get back there. But let's make this week a point of it. Before spring break, let's make sure and get all of them done so everybody in the building's visited, okay? Sound good? Is there anything anybody wants to comment about? Anything from the learning walks that they've seen?
We didn't do learning walks, but Joe Gary asked us to come down and check out some of her inputs and process it with her. And so
we probably still won't get
intentional.
100% just with testing, because I know I've missed out on some rooms.
6th grade math is this week.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably be good for us all to walk through there and just see how the testing's going. Any sense about ELA 6th grade last week?
Took a lot longer.
Yeah.
And some frustration over the performance task of how long it was taking the kids. But
Did we get all kids finished eventually, or?
I think they did.
Did they?
I think they did, or at least most of it, because they were still pulling kids in
I'd
last
say
week.
we should be pretty close,
To
'cause they-
finish. We're close, yeah.
Okay.
Bring that in a lot of buildings, the frustration,
Mhm.
you know.
The timing. And I think as kids.
And maybe not having kids as prepared as they would have
Uh-huh.
liked.
Mhm.
Well, but there was kids that went over a day.
Yes.
I mean, that's.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
I'm
you
not
know,
just talking one or two.
Yeah.
We
wow.
told the new teachers, well, even teachers that were here last year seemed really shocked. But we said that, your kids will, for that performance task, some of them are gonna get a prompt that, they have to write a narrative, some are gonna have to write an argumentative, and some are gonna have to write, an informational piece. All based on the same information. And, but they're gonna have different prompts and 2 different teachers said, "Can you believe it? They're not even, the prompts aren't even the same for them." And then they, and I said, "Well, yeah, we talked about that." And, because people hear what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But then this person had a good point. She said, "How can these be scored?" And then that's where I thought maybe you might have some information or something to say. How can they be scored equally? Or how can it be like a calibrated score when some kids have a narrative and some have an argumentative? And
They score on a rubric,
Uh-huh.
so if a rubric equalizes.
Sure,
right?
okay, that's what.
So that's how they're scored.
Okay.
I mean, I
Okay,
just
that's
ultimately,
perfect.
that's the end
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
And to
But yeah, I
that
think a big
step
part of
forward.
it.
Have any of you guys been to the NCE conference in Portland, on the technology one?
Years ago.
A long time ago. My expectations are pretty high because Paul, Dave, all said it was one of their favorite conferences, and they've been, I think, one of the ones. But I think what was so beneficial about it was just, I liked how the sessions were an hour long, so they were short and sweet. You got to fit in really 5 to 6 per day. I came away with several things. One is there are quite a few districts going one-to-one. That's a big phrase right now, which is every teacher has a class calculator class, So it's coming. It's coming. The other is flipping classrooms. That was a big one to Paul as he was going up, and I saw 2 or 3 sessions on that. And that's where you do a lesson before the lesson that the kids watch, maybe once a week, twice a week, on some of the big ideas. Thought a lot about that over the weekend with my wife, and I'll be interested to see how that goes. So there was an idea of me flipping staff meetings and actually having 5 to 10 minute video several days before the staff meeting, and actually have staff watch something, whether it be like an example of teaching, or maybe it's a focus on the framework that we're going to talk about, and just ask staff ahead of time to come with specific things in line before you meet together, and kind of model that. And that was kind of interesting. So it's my goal to do that several times before the end of the school. So is there any data for us to look at today, Sheila, within ELA?
No, we've had first round of tests, but no post-tests yet.
Okay.
7th and 8th grade are going to be, and 6th grade are giving their post-tests this week. Their
So will you
retest.
have some Monday, a week from,
Yeah.
I guess it'll be Monday after spring break,
If they
right?
get their data to me,
Okay.
they'll have it.
Let me know if you need some help.
All right.
Has
muscle.
Terrell given you hers from
Yes,
before?
yeah,
Okay.
from the first test, yes.
They might have some difficult decisions to make with the resources. So this is what it looks like. Go to an 8-period day, have collaboration time where they'll do these things, evaluate strategies, plan lessons, analyze data, organize reteaching, move from 60 to 200 minutes a week. This is what it will generally look like. I just want them to understand that we're trying to block prep and PLC together. These represent 5-person teams. And then the rest of this will be filled in as our schedule's created once we get the approval on this. So what is it? We basically had this model for 3 years, and we're going to talk a little bit about why we don't have it now. But during that time, we actually created it in 08, 09, and implemented it in 09 and 10. And this was, the result was 6th grade, and you can see pretty steady upswing. And this was 7th grade and 8th grade. This is a number of students who are number of Fs at Park. This is 08, before we looked at moving it, and this is this year. And you can see that one of the major reasons that we have a decrease in failure is because of that collaboration time. We created interventions. We created standards-based grading system. And that's pretty dramatic right there, isn't it? So to make this work in 09, we had to create some bargaining agreements. And they basically were variances to the contract. What was a little unique about this is we asked teachers to increase the class size without compensation, and we actually had a variance for that. KEA, this is the one Dave inserted. KEA and Uniserv leadership refused to allow this to continue after 2012, which is 2. They allowed it for 3 years.
Language.
It is very strong.
That's the truth.
So I'm going to present this to staff tomorrow. Just let them know what we're doing. How do you guys think about
The
that?
child on, where are you in relation to the rest of that group? Right?
Was that one with the plot lines like this?
Yeah, we saw
Yeah, yeah,
that.
it's got a 4-quadrant,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's the student growth index. So that's 60% of the overall score on the big index.
And do
Okay?
they use the MSP only, or do they use the MAP?
Only MSP.
Only MSP
MAP
for
is
everything.
totally a
not every
Kennewick
district.
School
Okay,
District
yeah, got it,
initiative.
okay.
So in the past, you were, I think the last time I looked at the index, which was about a year ago, I think you were down around, 1,300 out of 1,822 schools in the state of Washington. So they take every school and they rank them. It doesn't matter if you're middle school, high school, elementary, it doesn't matter what grade configuration it is. This year, I am happy to tell you that you are now at, what did I say, 10,000, 22.
10,000?
1,022.
1,022.
Right in the middle of the pack.
And when I compared all of the middle schools in Kennewick, Richland, and Pasco, you were the 2nd highest of all of those schools on the index.
And who's ahead of us?
Enterprise.
Totally. And when Lee showed us this, that's what we always said is, we look so poor because you're not doing apples and you're doing apples and oranges. When you start doing apples to apples, I was excited when he was talking
Student
about
growth
this.
index, yeah.
Yes, because it really validates the hard work.
Yes, I think you guys should, and we just heard last week at a meeting I was at, that they are going to announce next year's priority of focus schools by the end of the month. So
By the end of March or
by
April?
March. So
This
this
week.
week we expect, and they're exiting 65 schools, and I won't be surprised that Olive Park is one of those. So. Fingers crossed.
Will we still get money? Will Dave and I still have a job?
Your title.
Yeah, you guys are titled.
Oh.
You're not. Oh, okay, then we can be out of focus.
Theoretically, guys, the only thing we lose, so that's Wednesday, and then the last slide is, the site council, everybody's seen those results, right? 48 out of 52, 92% yes on both of those, which is extremely high for any staff vote. They're all very much in favor. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then the recommendation. Yeah, we've all been asking ourselves that question.
I know one of them.
Do you, for sure?
Oh, I know.
Well, it's probably only 2
That is
people,
personally-
right?
Park Middle School for the next school year to allow us to pilot the implementation of an 8-period day in which teachers receive their normal prep but also have a collaboration period. So, we'll see what happens, okay?
Good luck.
That meeting you said on Wednesday, is that Wednesday evening or
Yes.
Wednesday afternoon?
Yeah, and I'm like midway in the agenda. It starts at 5:30.
What's it for?
School board.
School board meeting,
Is it here?
district office.
Okay.
The other one is I'd like to share with staff tomorrow
Oh, this is.
the safety survey. Whoops. It's really good results. Something to celebrate. Do you feel safe in your school? We achieved our goal. Remember, it's 90%, so it's right here. We were just like a percent or two higher than Desert Hills. Do you feel safe outside? Came out really strong in this too. We were the only one above 90 in the district, which is really surprising because a lot, our outside isn't
Isn't always
safe.
the same.
Probably would have been higher if our teacher didn't go outside dancing.
Yeah, I was up an hour after the test.
Do you feel safe in your classroom? All 4 schools scored real well in this. I think we tied with Desert Hills on this one. Do you feel comfortable going to staff for help? This is the infamous trusted adult question. We did make our goal of 90%. We were the highest of all 4 schools, and we were at 89, so we were very, very close. But we got to feel very proud of that. There was a lot of work we did. We also had quite a few staff change in 7th grade, which is where this day was coming from. And I think that probably had an
Sure.
And this 7th grade class is not the 8th grade class.
No,
Right.
they aren't.
So we'll share that with staff. That's something to be proud of
I don't know if
tomorrow.
I feel safe
I think when you take this, and I'm going to try to put that growth index, the ranking data together, tomorrow will be a real celebration for staff before we go to spring break. You should all feel good about it.
Do you have the old numbers? Is that what you're saying? Like last year's?
You want me to compare them? I've done that before. So like show where we were with last year's class? You want to do
Yeah,
that?
that'd be cool. Yeah, that would be
Okay.
good.
Because we've grown in everything, not just that we're ahead of everybody.
True. That's true.
I heard this discussion at a different school, won't say who, but, well, all the administrators were in the room when they were doing, and I said, hey, I was in the room too, and they were not making kids answer, all they were doing was making sure that it was clear that it was important and do your best, but they were not influencing what kids were writing at all, They're like,
I was upfront about that. I told
yeah,
them at the
they
principal
said,
meeting.
that's why they were like, well, they were doing this, and I was like, no.
That's not completely accurate. I did give them two answers.
That's true, I forgot about that, but they didn't get your joke, so it didn't really matter.
First question was what grade level and what school. I gave them those answers every time. Then I said the third one you're gonna have to answer your own. It's male, female.
I'll tell you what,
And they didn't get
if
it.
you don't have a culture in place where the kids feel like we're on the same team, you standing in that room is actually going to work against you.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll look at
Exactly.
you like, no, I don't feel safe. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take
Your
this
face
one.
on the spelling of your name.
Just talk about, to me, you just walk into Park and you feel the culture, you feel the environment, you walk into some of the other middle school, you don't feel it. So I mean, I
There
just
is
wish they could
definitely-
understand walking in here.
Yeah, and you
Feel
see it
it.
because you go to a lot of them.
Yeah.
When you go to different schools, you get a real sense of what the culture is like,
Yes.
and here it's very, very positive.
Yes.
And Andy Kelly, in that one white paper he wrote, he talked about the ethos of a school, and that's really what that is, the culture is the ethos. But one of the things he said in another school I work in up the valley, he came there last year and he said, you can tell a lot by the things you see in the hallways and the signs that are up around the school. And in their school, he said, what do you think I think is important here? And it was staying to the right, because they've got a zillion signs that say stay to the right, you're on the right, things like that. But they don't have a lot of, you have a lot of positive comments and things up. I mean, just when I went to the restroom earlier, you've got new posters in there.
Stay to the right. Use the stall on the right.
But it looks like, there's just a whole sense all around the school. Not just in what you see, but also in what you hear, and how teachers treat kids, and how kids treat each other is a really big indicator. So your kids are pretty nice to each other, you
And
know?
it's-
And nice to
It's
adults.
coming from a
Yeah.
lot of different directions, you know, it is.
Which is difficult in a culture of poverty, because that's not always what you see in a culture of poverty.
Yeah.
So, I think you guys have just done a remarkable job, and when I think back to the first day I walked in here and, people were yelling at each other in meetings,
What
and
year was that?
2008.
Was that when the coach was yelling at me? Oh, no.
No, that was you.
But anyway, but no, I remember sitting in some meetings with staff members screaming, but people couldn't even get along. So we said, well, let's have potlucks. I mean, just to at least start getting people to be able to sit in the same room together. Remember that?
Yes, I felt
So
so artificial.
it was all first order
You try to
training.
create that. You try to create that stuff and nobody feels comfortable.
Well, it was all first
They're
order
afraid to
training.
eat the food.
It got them started. I
Fake
mean,
booze bottles in the staff lounge. That was
so it's a way different school than it was in 2008 when Kevin came.
That's a lot.
Well, okay, number 4, guys, flip the page over. It's gonna be a good spring. So, Dave, talk to us about the formative assessment training that happened on Friday. That's actually pretty exciting. We've got 14 classrooms that have the MOBI and the response system clickers.
The training was good. She did a nice job. Probably needed another day, to cover stuff. 7th grade's using the clickers today, so that's a good sign. I got a couple calls, troubleshooting stuff.
Yeah, but did Stephanie go? I thought she stayed.
Stephanie, 7th grade math.
Oh, 7th grade math.
Yeah, so, and actually they're planning on administering they have a common assessment on Thursday, and they're going to administer it using the clickers so that they can get it back.
Nice.
So,
Brian did create an assessment for the MOBI. He created a formative assessment, he sent that to me, yeah.
and I think Brian will use them actually. I
Yeah.
think, he struggled a little bit technologically, but I think
Mhm.
he sees the value, so I think
Yeah.
he'll
How about
use
6th
it.
grade? Did you feel good about them and some of the ELA teachers and stuff? Did you feel good?
Yeah. They actually asked the most questions
Yeah.
and actually probably most engaged in the whole thing. Honestly, probably they were the most engaged.
Or all the response, all the remotes have batteries, are ready to go. Everything's good. Software's loaded and everything.
Yeah, they were all loaded. And Brian stopped me to ask me questions about how to make the clicker, how to change channels on the clickers. So they're using them today.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
When did they get them? Just last week?
Yeah, they got training on Friday, and they're
These are cool. They got the whole QWERTY keyboard on them, you know?
I just saw it on Facebook.
So how big are the clickers? Like a calculator size?
yeah, actually like a TI. Well, not our TI.